AITA for refusing to let my sister's children live with me after she needed a break. I, 32F, have always been very close with my younger sister, Emily, 28F. She has 3 kids, Sam, 10M, Lily, 7F, and Noah, 4M. For context, I don't have kids of my own, but I've spent a lot of time babysitting and helping Emily whenever she's asked. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a city that's not very kid-friendly, but it works for me. I enjoy my space, my routines, and my independence. Emily and her husband, Mark, 30M, have always been very hands-on parents, but lately things have been stressful for them. Emily works part-time from home, Mark works full-time, and their kids have a lot of extracurricular activities. Last week, Emily called me in tears saying she needed a break and asked if I could take the kids for a week. I told her I needed to think about it because it's a lot to suddenly accommodate 3 kids in my tiny apartment. She assured me it would only be a week and that it would help her recharge and come back feeling better. I said I'd help, but then I realized that I had a huge problem. My apartment literally cannot comfortably fit 3 kids. My living room is tiny. There's only 1 bedroom with a full bed, not enough for even 1 child comfortably. And I don't have any baby-proofing at all for Noah. I also have a demanding work schedule and a lot of responsibilities that don't allow me to be on call 24/7 for 3 kids who are used to constant attention. I tried explaining this to Emily, but she started crying and insisting that she was desperate and that this wasn't fair because she has helped me out a lot over the years. I tried to compromise by suggesting that I could watch them for a day or 2, or maybe just pick them up for the afternoons, but she kept insisting that a week was what she needed. I eventually told her that no, I couldn't take all 3 kids for a week and that she needed to figure out another solution. Emily blew up on me. She said I was selfish and that I don't understand how hard it is to be a parent. She accused me of using my space and my freedom as an excuse to avoid family responsibilities and said that if I loved her, I would do this. She even sent me messages calling me cold and inconsiderate and mentioned that I had always been pampered and never had to face real-life challenges. I tried to stay calm, explaining that I love her and the kids, but that taking 3 children into a small, unprepared apartment for a week was not realistic. I reminded her that I've helped her countless times before with babysitting and errands, and that I can't risk their safety or my sanity by attempting something I literally cannot handle. The tension escalated. Mark got involved and told me that Emily was really struggling and implied that I was being unreasonable. He suggested maybe I could rearrange my apartment or take on the stress for her sake. I refused, and he accused me of choosing my comfort over family. After that, Emily stopped speaking to me for 3 days. Our parents have since weighed in, and their consensus is that I should help family when they are in crisis. My parents have gently suggested I could make it work somehow if I really wanted to. A few of my friends think I should at least try to accommodate the kids temporarily. But honestly, I feel like I would be setting myself up for disaster. My apartment is not safe for Noah at his age. There is literally no room for 3 kids to sleep without chaos, and I cannot give them the attention they need for a full week. I also work long hours, and the thought of being constantly responsible for 3 kids in a confined space is extremely stressful for me. I offered other solutions, helping Emily hire a babysitter, taking them for short periods, or even letting them stay at my place for a couple of hours while she runs errands. She refused all of these. She seems convinced that if I really cared, I would make it work. Now, Emily has cut me off from communicating except through minimal texts about emergencies. Mark is annoyed with me, and I'm feeling extremely guilty. I keep questioning if I'm really being selfish or if my boundaries are reasonable. AITA for refusing to let Emily's children live with me for a week, even though she says she needs a break. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for refusing to let my fiance's mother dictate how I handle my own wedding plans. I, 29F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Ethan, 31M, for about a year. We've been planning our wedding for next summer, and so far it's been mostly smooth, except for one major source of stress. Ethan's mother, Linda, 58F. Linda has always been very controlling, and she has a habit of inserting herself into our lives in ways that feel overwhelming. The problem started when we announced our wedding date. We wanted a mid-June wedding at a small venue that is meaningful to both of us. As soon as Linda found out, she began sending texts and calling Ethan about the importance of planning the wedding correctly. At first, I tried to ignore it, thinking she was just being excited, but it quickly became clear that she expected to control nearly every aspect of the wedding. Linda started by insisting on a guest list. She wanted to invite people I barely know, claiming they deserve an invite because they're part of the family network. When I politely said I'd prefer to limit the guest list to close family and friends, she accused me of being rude and exclusionary. Then she moved on to decorations. She demanded that the colors match what she imagined for the wedding and began sending Pinterest boards to Ethan multiple times a day. When I said I liked my original choices, she responded that I was being stubborn and unreasonable. The first major argument happened when she tried to veto our catering choices. Ethan and I had booked a menu we loved, but she insisted it was too plain and not elegant enough for family expectations. I explained that it's our wedding and we should choose what we want to eat, but she became upset and said, "This is about family tradition, and you should respect it." Ethan tried to mediate, but he admitted that he understood why I was frustrated. Then came the issue with the wedding party. Linda demanded that her friends be in the bridal party or that she could pick some of the bridesmaids. I refused because our wedding party is made up of people who are important to me and Ethan personally. Linda accused me of alienating the family and said I was being selfish. Things escalated further when she started making passive-aggressive comments to other family members. She implied that Ethan and I were ignoring family input and that I was ungrateful for her help. Several relatives began asking me to compromise for family, which made me feel cornered. I tried to explain that while I appreciate her enthusiasm, this is my wedding and I should have the final say. I did try to compromise in small ways. I asked her to help with certain planning tasks, like arranging favors or coordinating music playlists, but she rejected everything that didn't give her complete control. She said, "If I can't control every detail, I don't want to participate at all." This left Ethan and me feeling stressed because we wanted to avoid drama, but also wanted to maintain our boundaries. At one point, she even sent Ethan an ultimatum. Either she gets to plan significant parts of the wedding, or she will not attend. Ethan brought this to me, and I said that we cannot allow anyone to dictate our wedding. I told him we need to set clear boundaries with his mother, even if it causes temporary tension. I've been trying to maintain civility. I've communicated politely that she can help in ways we approve of, but she refuses anything that doesn't involve her controlling major decisions. The stress is affecting both Ethan and me, and family events now feel tense because of this conflict. Some friends say I'm completely justified in setting boundaries, as this is my wedding, and allowing her to control things would ruin it for me and Ethan. Others argue that I should be more flexible to accommodate family. I feel caught between respecting my fiancé's family and maintaining my autonomy over a major life event. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my fiancé's mother dictate how I handle my own wedding plans, even though she claims she just wants to help and maintain family tradition. Character count, 6,662 if you want. I can write another story with an even more tangled family conflict, including multiple siblings, overlapping obligations, and escalating drama that could feel extremely viral on Reddit. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after what happened at my own. This has been eating at me for months, and I can't figure out if I'm in the wrong, so I'm hoping for some outside perspective. A little background. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emma, 29F. We've always been close in some ways, but also extremely competitive. Growing up, she was the golden child type, smart, pretty, athletic, and generally well-liked, while I was more reserved, bookish, and introverted. My parents were very open about their preference for her, which I tried to shrug off, but it left some scars. Despite that, We shared a lot of interests, especially music and movies, and I always wanted her to be happy. Fast forward a few years, I got married to my husband, Daniel, 34M. Our wedding was fairly small and intimate, mostly family and a handful of friends. I thought it went smoothly, but I hadn't anticipated how much tension Emma would stir up. She insisted on being involved in every detail, often undermining my choices. For example, she vetoed a few of the florists I wanted because she claimed the arrangements were too plain, even though they were exactly what I had envisioned. She also made a scene when I asked her not to invite her co-workers. She said it was my wedding too, and that I had no right to limit the guest list. The day of the wedding, things escalated. During the ceremony, she loudly whispered that my dress looked kind of old-fashioned and that Daniel was settling for me. I didn't hear the second part until later, but multiple guests did, and it was mortifying. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe she was nervous or joking, but then at the reception, she kept making snide comments about the food, the music, and even my family's table arrangements. It reached a peak when she got up during my toast and started making a joke about how I'd better be ready for a lifetime of mediocrity. My husband and I were stunned, and I could feel the eyes of our guests on us, unsure how to react. I confronted her later that night, asking why she felt the need to publicly humiliate me. She claimed I was overreacting and said, "I was just being honest. Everyone knows you're the boring one." My parents didn't say much. They seemed more annoyed with the tension than with her behavior. The fallout left me in tears for days, and I honestly couldn't believe my sister had acted this way on my wedding day. I ended up avoiding her for months, and our relationship has been extremely strained since. Now, here's the current issue. Emma is getting married next year, and she's been texting me nonstop, asking for help with planning. She wants me to coordinate the bridal shower, help pick out her dress, and basically be her right-hand person throughout the entire process. At first, I thought about trying to mend things and maybe being involved in a limited way, but then she dropped a bomb. She said she's inviting everyone for my wedding as well and expects me to handle seating arrangements and invitations for both families. She also hinted that if I'm not involved, she might exclude me from key parts of the wedding. I got angry. I told her I wasn't comfortable being part of her wedding planning because of how she treated me at mine. I explained, as calmly as I could, that I felt disrespected and hurt and that I needed space. I also told her that I would attend the wedding, but I would not take any active role in organizing anything. She responded by blowing up my phone with texts accusing me of being selfish and petty and claiming I'm ruining what should be a happy time. She even said that I was jealous of her and that I'm always going to be the sad, bitter one. I feel bad because I do want her to be happy, but I can't ignore the past. I try to set boundaries, but she seems determined to manipulate me into doing things I'm uncomfortable with. My parents are pressuring me too, saying that family support is important and that I should just get over it for one day. I understand that weddings are stressful, but the fact that she publicly embarrassed me and refused to acknowledge it makes me hesitant to be involved in planning something so personal to her. Some friends have told me I'm justified and that it's normal to protect myself from toxic behavior, while others say I'm being overdramatic and need to forgive my sister if I want a decent relationship with her moving forward. Part of me wonders if I'm really overreacting and that maybe it was just typical wedding stress that made her behave poorly. But another part of me feels like boundaries are exactly what I need to maintain, especially if her version of helping involves manipulating or undermining me. I don't want to start a feud, and I want to maintain a relationship with her, but I also feel like being forced to help plan her wedding would just reopen old wounds. I'm worried that if I don't step in, everyone will think I'm the bad sister, and that's part of the reason I'm second-guessing myself. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after how she treated me at mine? Character count, 6,587 if you want. I can also draft a second story in the same style, but with a more shocking twist at the end, which tends to perform even better on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé take over my wedding planning and now being accused of ruining our relationship? This is going to be long, so buckle up. My 28F fiancé, Alex, 30M, and I have been together for 6 years. We've been engaged for almost a year, and have been planning our wedding during that time. From the beginning, I made it very clear that I wanted a wedding that reflected both of our personalities, but primarily mine, because it's a big day for me, and I wanted to feel it truly represented who I am. The issue started when Alex's younger brother, Jake, 26M, got engaged to his fiancée, Melissa, 27F, about 6 months ago. Melissa is very outgoing and opinionated, and from the moment she announced their engagement, she's been involved in everything wedding-related in our family. Now, I don't mind giving advice or sharing ideas, but she has a very strong personality and tends to take over situations if left unchecked. About 3 months ago, Melissa reached out to me with a proposal of sorts. She said she wanted to help me make the wedding perfect and offered to create a spreadsheet for seating, a checklist for vendors, and even suggested colors and floral arrangements. At first, I tried to be polite and said thank you, but that I had already hired a wedding planner and had most things sorted. Melissa didn't take that as a no. She insisted she just wanted to help me avoid mistakes and save money because, according to her, I was being naive about some vendor prices. Things escalated when she started showing up unannounced at meetings with florists and caterers. She would take notes and suggest changes to arrangements that I had already approved, often in front of vendors. I felt incredibly undermined and started to stress over my own wedding planning. Alex noticed I was getting tense and tried to talk to Melissa, asking her politely to step back. Melissa responded by saying she was just being helpful and that I should relax and trust her experience. Then came the seating arrangement debacle. She insisted on arranging the tables herself, claiming she knew everyone better than I did and could optimize the social dynamics. I refused and told her I had my own plan. This led to a 3-hour argument at my apartment, where she accused me of being controlling and ungrateful. She even said I was jealous of her organizational skills. I was shocked. This was not a friendly suggestion anymore. It felt like she was trying to control my wedding. The final straw came last weekend. My fiancé and I had scheduled a tasting session with our caterer. I told Melissa she was welcome to come, but I wanted to make the final decisions myself. She showed up an hour early, took over the tasting notes, started criticizing our menu choices, and even called the chef to suggest her own dishes without consulting me. I left the room in tears and told Alex I couldn't handle her meddling anymore. After that, Alex confronted Melissa and told her in no uncertain terms that this was our wedding, not hers, and she needed to back off. Melissa was furious and texted me, saying I was being dramatic and turning family against her. She then sent Alex a long message accusing me of alienating everyone, and that our relationship was on the rocks because of me. Alex tried to mediate, but the tension has been palpable ever since. Yesterday, Jake got involved. He told me that Melissa was just trying to help, and that I was being unnecessarily harsh. He said I was creating drama, and that I should let Melissa contribute because family should support each other. I told him I appreciated the sentiment, but that this was my wedding, and I had to set boundaries. He said I was being selfish and controlling, and that I was probably going to regret this on the day when everything falls apart. Now, I feel like I'm being gaslit. My fiancé is supportive but stressed because of the family conflict, and I'm constantly second-guessing myself. I do not want Melissa to be involved in decision-making. She can attend, celebrate, and give input if asked, but she cannot take over the planning. The rest of the family seems to be quietly siding with her because they think she's helpful and I'm unreasonable. I honestly feel like I'm in a lose-lose situation. If I let her continue, I'll feel like my wedding isn't mine. If I keep her out, I risk alienating my future in-laws and my brother-in-law. I've tried to set firm boundaries politely, but they keep being ignored, and I'm exhausted. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé take over my wedding planning, even if it means upsetting the family. Character count, 6,408 if you want. I can also write an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters that adds extra tension, like subtle manipulations, past family incidents, and extended emotional dialogue, which often makes these stories even more viral on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to buy my adult son an expensive car, even though he says he needs it for work. I, 52F, have a son, Jason, 24M, who recently graduated from college and started working at a tech company. He is bright, talented, and generally responsible, but he has always expected a certain lifestyle and sometimes assumes I will support it. Recently, Jason approached me with a request that has caused major tension. He told me he needed a new car for work because his old one wasn't cutting it, and implied that he couldn't perform optimally without a luxury vehicle. He specifically asked for a $45,000 SUV, saying it was necessary for professional appearances and that it would make commuting easier and more comfortable. I asked him if his current car was unsafe or unreliable, and he said, "No, it runs fine, but it doesn't look impressive." I explained that I couldn't justify buying a car of that price for him, especially when he is just starting out in his career. I reminded him that I had helped him financially in the past with college and some initial living expenses after graduation, but buying a luxury car felt excessive and unsustainable. I also offered to help him find a more affordable vehicle that was safe and reliable, but he insisted that compromises won't work and that I should support him as my parent. Jason then began using emotional pressure. He said that it was disappointing that I wouldn't support his career and that it showed I didn't believe in him. He compared himself to friends whose parents had bought them cars and said that if I didn't help, he would feel left behind. I tried to stay calm and reminded him that his friends' parents are not a benchmark and that financial boundaries are important. Over the next few weeks, the tension escalated. Jason began making snide remarks about my financial decisions, telling me that I don't understand the modern world and that I never help when it matters. He also started talking about the situation to my extended family, framing it as me being stingy and unsupportive, which made family gatherings uncomfortable. My siblings have told me I should just buy the car to avoid drama, but I feel like that would be enabling entitlement rather than teaching responsibility. A few days ago, Jason went further. He suggested that if I wouldn't buy the car, I could at least co-sign a loan. I explained that co-signing would put me at significant financial risk, especially for such a large loan on a new graduate salary. He became angry and accused me of not caring about his future and not being proud of his success. He even said he might move out sooner than planned because he doesn't want to be held back by parents who won't invest in him. I feel stuck. I want to support my son and help him succeed, but I also feel like he's prioritizing image over practicality. His current car runs perfectly, has low mileage, and is safe. I've suggested alternatives like a certified pre-owned SUV, a reasonable car loan in his own name, or even helping him budget for a few months until he can afford a new car himself. He refuses all of these options and continues to insist that I buy the expensive SUV outright. My spouse and I have discussed the situation, and we both agree that giving him would set a dangerous precedent. Jason has always been ambitious, but he seems to equate parental support with funding luxury items rather than guidance or mentorship. I've tried to explain that helping him navigate adult responsibilities is a better form of support than buying him a high-end car. Meanwhile, family members and friends have started giving me mixed reactions. Some say I'm right to set boundaries and that Jason's demands are unrealistic. Others suggest that I should just buy the car to keep peace and avoid alienating him. I'm worried that this conflict could damage my relationship with him permanently if he continues to see my refusal as a lack of love or support. I'm also concerned about financial fairness. My other children, I have 2 younger kids, have never received such expensive gifts, and I feel like giving in now will be setting an unfair standard. Jason is intelligent and capable of finding a solution himself, but he seems unwilling to explore alternatives or compromise. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to buy my adult son an expensive $45,000 car, even though he says he needs it for work? Or am I being reasonable by setting boundaries and encouraging financial responsibility? Character count, 6,356 if you want. I can create an even longer, more dramatic version where extended family and friends take sides. Jason's attitude escalates, and their social media involvement, which tend to make these stories more viral on Reddit. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house for weeks, even though she says he has nowhere else to go. I, 33F, live in a modest 3-bedroom house in a suburban area. I've lived here for about 6 years, and I consider my sanctuary. I share it with my fiancé, Matt, 35M, and our 2 dogs. Our routines, space, and privacy are very important to us. I have always tried to maintain a good relationship with my family, but my younger sister, Sophie, 28F, has a fiancé, Tom, 30M, who is notoriously entitled and used to getting his way. A couple of months ago, Sophie called me saying that Tom had been evicted from his apartment due to missed rent payments. She said he had nowhere to go and asked if he could stay with me temporarily while they figured things out. I told her I needed details, how long he planned to stay, what our arrangements would be, and how it would affect my household. Sophie said he'd be staying as long as it takes, which could be weeks or months, and that he expected a room of his own and full access to the kitchen and living spaces. I was immediately uncomfortable. I love Tom when he's visiting occasionally, but having him live in my house for weeks would completely disrupt our lives. I have work obligations, Matt has his own schedule, and our dogs are anxious around strangers. I explained to Sophie that while I understand their predicament, I couldn't commit to hosting him for an indefinite period. I offered alternatives, helping them find a short-term rental, pitching in to cover temporary housing costs, or even letting him stay a night or 2 while they arrange something more permanent. Sophie was furious. She accused me of being selfish and cold, saying that families should help each other and that I owe him a place to stay. She also implied that if I refused, I was damaging my relationship with her and possibly the entire family. I tried to explain that helping doesn't have to mean giving up months of my life and personal space, but she didn't see it that way. Things escalated when Tom himself called Matt and me. He claimed he felt abandoned and unsupported and said that I was being unreasonable. He added that he's family now too and that I should step up because I've always had a stable life. I told him calmly that I sympathize with his situation, but our home is not suitable for him to live in long term. He said I was selfish and heartless and started sending text messages daily, pressuring us to let him move in. Sophie involved our parents, framing it as me refusing to help family in need. My mom told me I should be flexible and do the right thing, while my dad said he understands my hesitation, but that family obligations are complicated. I feel torn because I do want to help, but not at the expense of my mental health, routine, or household. I considered a compromise, maybe allowing him to stay for a weekend or a few days, but even suggesting that was met with outrage. Sophie and Tom insisted that anything less than moving in immediately for as long as they need is unacceptable. They've started dropping subtle comments during family gatherings, making me feel guilty and isolated. I've offered to help financially, assist in searching for rentals, and even provide meals or supplies while they arrange housing, but they rejected all alternatives. They argue that my home is the only suitable option and that they shouldn't have to compromise for someone else's comfort. Matt is supportive but frustrated because the constant calls and messages are stressful. He agrees that allowing Tom to move in would be chaotic, especially given our dogs and work schedules. My friends say I'm right to protect my home and boundaries, but some relatives think I should make sacrifices for family. I feel guilty, anxious, and conflicted, but I also feel that giving in would set a precedent that I can't realistically maintain. I want to help in ways that don't disrupt my life entirely, but Sophie and Tom refuse anything short of living with us. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house for weeks, even though they claim he has nowhere else to go, and family thinks I should be generous. Character count, 6,625. I can create another story with even higher stakes, overlapping family conflicts, and moral gray areas that could mimic the type of stories that go viral on Reddit if you want. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's family. So I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 25F. We grew up in a pretty typical household, and while we had our disagreements like any siblings, we've generally been supportive of each other. That said, the past couple of years have been difficult. Emma met her fiancé, Darren, about 2 years ago. At first, everything seemed fine. He was charming, funny, and she was clearly happy. I liked him enough, but I did notice some red flags early on. Darren's family is extremely wealthy and, for lack of a better word, pretentious. They openly flaunt their wealth, make condescending jokes about anyone who isn't successful enough, and have a way of making social gatherings uncomfortable for people outside their bubble. Fast forward to 6 months ago, Emma got engaged and the planning began. She and Darren immediately made it clear they wanted a perfect, luxurious wedding at an exclusive resort. I tried to be supportive, offering to help with ideas and logistics. But it quickly became apparent that they weren't interested in including me beyond the obligatory maid of honor duties. They wanted me to stand there and smile while they handled everything, which is fine, but I also started to see how they treated other people. The first major red flag was a family brunch Darren's parents threw a month ago. They invited me and a few other family members. Right away, I felt uncomfortable. Their small gathering was at a country club, and they spent the entire morning making comments about everyone's jobs, income, and outfits. At one point, Darren's mom loudly criticized a woman in a simple dress, saying she couldn't be serious about fashion if she wore that. Everyone laughed awkwardly. I tried to brush it off, but it left a bad taste in my mouth. Then came the wedding guest list. Emma and Darren decided to invite only a small number of family members and friends, explicitly excluding anyone they thought was boring or too ordinary. Naturally, I got a front row seat to see how Darren's family behaves behind closed doors. At a meeting about seating arrangements, Darren's dad suggested moving my cousins, who are teachers and live modestly, to a less visible table. Emma hesitated but didn't object, so I quietly left the room. I felt like I was suddenly an outsider in my sister's life. A few weeks later, Darren's brother made a comment to me about my job. I'm a freelance graphic designer, during a family dinner. He said, and I quote, "It must be cute being your own boss, but I guess some of us prefer real careers." I laughed it off at first, but inside I was furious. This isn't just about wealth or career choices. It's about respect. Things came to a head last weekend. Emma and Darren invited me over for a final planning session. I was excited to help, thinking maybe we could sort out some last-minute details. Instead, the conversation turned into Darren's parents criticizing the catering options, guest list, and even the decorations I suggested for the bridal shower. I tried to speak up a few times, but every point I made was dismissed or ridiculed. At one point, Darren's mom said, "We're just trying to help make sure the wedding looks good for people who matter." That felt like a punch to the gut. Emma didn't defend me, and I realized she had fully aligned with Darren's family. After leaving, I felt a mix of sadness, anger, and betrayal. I called a close friend and vented, and she suggested that maybe I shouldn't attend the wedding if I felt this way. I didn't want to hurt Emma, but I also didn't want to be around people who made me feel belittled and unwelcome. I told Emma yesterday that I couldn't attend her wedding. I explained that I loved her and wanted her to be happy, but I couldn't be around people who consistently treated me and our family members with disdain. I expected some pushback, but the reaction I got was worse than I imagined. She cried and accused me of being dramatic and selfish. Darren's mom called me later and said, "You're making this all about yourself. Weddings are about the bride, and if you can't be happy for her, maybe you shouldn't be there." My parents are split. Mom says I should at least go for Emma, but Dad understands my position completely. My cousins are supportive, saying they would have done the same in my shoes. I honestly don't know if I'm being unreasonable. I've tried to stay civil and supportive, but every interaction with Darren's family has been humiliating and uncomfortable. I also don't want to lose my relationship with Emma, but I can't bring myself to attend her wedding under these circumstances. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's family? AITA for refusing to let my brother's kids stay over after he refused to follow my house rules? I, 36F, live in a 3-bedroom house with my husband, Alex, 38M, and our 2 children, ages 8 and 10. We love hosting family occasionally, but we have clear house rules. No yelling indoors, no running in the house, no unsupervised use of electronics, and everyone cleans up after themselves. Most family members respect this, and visits are usually fine. My younger brother, Sam, 32M, recently asked if his 2 kids, ages 7 and 5, could stay for a long weekend. I initially agreed, but before confirming, I reminded him of our house rules. I specifically said that his kids needed to respect our home, that he should supervise them, and that he was responsible for cleaning up any messes. He agreed, and I thought we were on the same page. The first day was okay, but the second day, chaos ensued. The kids were running around, screaming, and jumping on furniture despite repeated warnings. Sam wasn't paying much attention. He was on his phone most of the time. I asked him to intervene, and he said, "They're kids. Let them have fun." I reminded him that our rules still apply regardless of age. By the third day, things got worse. The kids were drawing on the walls with markers, leaving crumbs everywhere, and spilling drinks on the carpet. I calmly asked Sam to handle the situation, but he just shrugged. When I said that we might have to consider alternative arrangements if the rules weren't followed, he got defensive and said I was overreacting and controlling, and that I should let the kids be kids. That night, I discovered that one of our family heirlooms had been knocked over and broken. I was furious. I confronted Sam, and he said, "Accidents happen. It's not a big deal. I'll pay for it." I reminded him that he was supposed to supervise his children and prevent exactly this kind of thing. He said he didn't think we were being fair by setting too many rules. I explained that rules are there to protect everyone and our property, not to ruin anyone's fun. The next morning, I told Sam that if he couldn't control his kids, they could no longer stay in our house. He refused to take responsibility, insisting that I was ruining family time and that I should learn to relax. At this point, I decided to ask him to take his kids home immediately. He argued for a while, but eventually left after a heated discussion. After they left, I found additional damage: a spilled drink on the living room rug that wasn't cleaned up, small scratches on the coffee table, and the kids had left toys scattered throughout the house. I was overwhelmed by frustration because I had trusted Sam to follow the rules, and instead, I had to deal with broken items and a mess that took hours to clean. Since then, Sam has been messaging me, saying I overreacted and shouldn't have kicked the kids out. He also told my parents that I made things uncomfortable and ruined a fun weekend. My parents are divided. My mom says I should have been more patient, but my dad agrees that Sam didn't respect our rules. Some extended family members have also started taking sides online, sending me messages saying I was too strict and not family-oriented. I feel torn because I love my brother and his kids, but I also feel that our home and our rules are not optional. I tried communicating clearly in advance, gave warnings, and offered a chance to correct behavior, but he refused to take responsibility. I also feel guilty because it's caused tension with our family, but I don't want to compromise our household boundaries or allow repeated disrespect. I have offered to let them visit in the future under stricter supervision or even meet at a neutral location, but Sam refuses, saying I don't care about the kids' happiness. I feel like I've done everything reasonable, communicated rules, warned him, and acted when he failed to comply, but now the fallout is extensive. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's kids stay over after he repeatedly refused to follow my house rules and supervise them properly, resulting in property damage and chaos. Character count, 6,417. I can also create an even longer, more dramatic version with extended family arguments, social media posts, and escalating confrontations that make the story feel even more viral-ready for Reddit. Do you want me to do that next? Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding because I wouldn't lie about my partner's past. So this is going to be long, but I'll try to explain everything as clearly as I can. I, 28F, have always been the truthful one in my family. I value honesty above pretty much everything else, which has made me clash with my sister, Emily, 32F, more times than I can count. She is the opposite. She's a smooth things over, keep the peace kind of person, especially when it comes to appearances. She's always been concerned with how things look rather than what's real. This story is about her wedding last month and how it went completely off the rails because of me. Emily has been dating her now husband, Mike, 34M, for about 5 years. We all thought he was a great guy. Charming, funny, and seemingly responsible. I met him a few times before she got engaged, and while I never had any issues personally, I did notice a few red flags that didn't sit right with me. Mostly little things she seemed to dismiss, like the way he talked about past relationships, or some inconsistencies in his stories. But I didn't press it. I figure it wasn't my place. Fast forward to her engagement. She was ecstatic, and I was happy for her. When it came to wedding planning, I did my best to help, even though I knew Emily was a control freak about every detail. We picked dresses, planned the guest list, and went through all the normal stress. The drama started when she decided to have a meet-and-greet brunch with her extended family and friends to introduce Mike formally. Apparently, there had been rumors circulating about his past relationships and financial history. Emily was very concerned about what people would think, and she asked me, privately, if I could just cover for Mike, if anyone asked. Basically, lie in his favor if the topic came up. Here's where I made the choice that would ruin everything. I told her no. I told her I could not lie about someone's past, especially if it could affect her family or friends' perception in a significant way. I reminded her that the truth has a way of coming out eventually, and lying to protect appearances would only make it worse. She begged, she pleaded, she cried, saying that I was being selfish and that I was ruining her chance at a perfect wedding. He stayed firm. 2 days before the wedding, her worst fears came true. One of Mike's ex-girlfriends, who had been very active on social media, showed up at the brunch uninvited and started talking to people about Mike's history with her, including some financial disputes and personal drama. Everyone started asking questions, and Emily looked like she was about to have a breakdown. I refused to lie when asked, stating simply that I didn't know all the details but that people should talk to the parties involved. Apparently, this wasn't the answer Emily wanted, and she publicly accused me of trying to sabotage her wedding. The wedding day was even worse. The ex showed up again, making subtle remarks, and Emily was constantly whispering to me in panic, asking me to say something positive. I tried to remain neutral, but at one point, a few of her cousins cornered me and asked directly about Mike's past. I told them what I knew, which wasn't the full story, but wasn't a lie either. Emily overheard and completely lost it. She screamed at me in front of nearly 200 guests, saying I was selfish, cruel, and that I didn't care about her happiness. She stormed off, and her now husband followed. I stayed put because I couldn't pretend that everything was fine. After the ceremony, things were tense. Emily's mother blamed me for ruining the family image, and several guests whispered about how awkward everything had been. Emily barely spoke to me for the rest of the night. Mike, surprisingly, later pulled me aside and thanked me quietly for not lying. He said he respected honesty and that the truth was bound to come out anyway, so he appreciated that I didn't try to cover up anything. Now, a few weeks later, Emily is still giving me the silent treatment. Family gatherings are tense. A few mutual friends have asked me if I'm okay, and I've tried to explain that I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I just didn't want to lie about something important. My partner, 32M, supports me fully, saying that if Emily is angry about the truth being spoken, that's on her. Some extended family members, however, are quietly upset with me. They claim I should have played along for the sake of the wedding and that I overstepped by refusing to lie. Emily's husband, Mike, is on my side, but says he's staying out of the family feud because he doesn't want to make things worse. I honestly feel conflicted. I don't like that my actions caused Emily stress on what should have been the happiest day of her life, but I also can't regret sticking to my principles. If I had lied, it would have felt wrong, and I think she might have found out anyway, which would have been far worse. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to lie about my sister's fiancé and, in doing so, causing chaos at her wedding. I'm happy to provide more details about what was said at the brunch or the wedding if needed. But this is the gist of it. Character count, 6,514. Do you want me to create a second alternative story in a similar popular AITA style for variety? AITA for refusing to host my brother's wedding in my backyard because of his guest list and demands? I, 34F, own a mid-sized house with a decent backyard in a quiet neighborhood. I've lived here for over 7 years, and I love my space. I enjoy hosting occasional barbecues and small gatherings, but I've never hosted anything remotely close to a wedding. My younger brother, Evan, 30M, recently got engaged to his fiancée, Lily, 28F, and immediately started discussing wedding plans. He and Lily were clear from the beginning that they want a backyard wedding at my house, saying it's perfectly spacious and intimate. I was taken aback. First, they wanted it this summer, which is peak season for our small backyard. Second, they expected me to handle a lot of logistics, including coordinating tables, decorations, a tent, and even catering arrangements. I tried to explain that while my backyard is fine for small gatherings, hosting a full wedding with 120-plus guests is a massive undertaking and not something I can manage alone. They assured me that they'd handle most of the work themselves and that I just needed to say yes, because it's my backyard. I told them that I was uncomfortable with the idea and that we need to discuss it further. That's when the real conflict began. Lily presented a detailed list of demands: a rented tent, portable bathrooms, professional lighting, a dance floor, and restrictions on how my neighbors could be approached. She also said that my dogs would need to be relocated for the day, that the grass would need to be manicured in a specific way, and that I was expected to allow late-night noise without any complaints. They even wanted me to let them install temporary fencing for privacy. I reminded them that I don't have the time, money, or interest in managing all of this. Evan argued that since I have a beautiful yard, it's the perfect venue and that hosting a wedding there would bring the family together. He also added that it's customary for siblings to contribute by offering space or help. I explained that contributing doesn't mean I'm obligated to host a wedding in my personal space, and that asking me to manage hundreds of logistical details is unreasonable. Things escalated when they said my refusal was selfish and that I was not supporting family milestones. Lily started implying that my house is large enough that hosting a wedding would barely inconvenience me, which felt dismissive of the reality. Evan also said they had already invited guests on the assumption I'd say yes, which put me in a difficult position. I offered alternatives. I would help them research venues, contribute financially toward a small rental space, and assist with planning or coordination if the wedding happened elsewhere. They rejected everything, saying those options were not as meaningful and that a backyard wedding was special because it was at my home. The tension spread to family members. My parents tried to mediate, saying that I should at least consider letting them use the backyard, but they also acknowledged that hosting a wedding is a lot of work. Some relatives texted me saying I'm being difficult and should make sacrifices for my brother, which made me feel cornered and guilty. I also pointed out practical concerns. Parking for 120-plus guests would block neighbors' driveways. A rented tent cost thousands. The yard could be damaged, and managing cleanup alone would be overwhelming. Evan and Lily dismissed all of these points, saying they'd handle it. I didn't feel comfortable relying on them entirely to manage liability, safety, and the actual cleanup. As a result, my relationship with Evan has become tense. He's now saying that I'm unsupportive and putting myself above family, and Lily has started passive-aggressive comments whenever we talk. I feel stressed and guilty because I want to celebrate this milestone with them, but hosting it at my house feels unreasonable. Some friends say I'm justified because a wedding is a massive event, and a backyard wedding is not a small favor. It's a full-on logistical nightmare. Others argue that I should make a sacrifice for my brother and future sister-in-law, at least for one day. I feel trapped between wanting to be supportive and not wanting to compromise my home, finances, and sanity. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my brother's wedding in my backyard because of their guest list and the overwhelming demands, even though they say it would be meaningful for the family. Character count, 6,635. I can also write another story with even more escalating family conflict, multiple parties involved, and morally gray choices, which could feel like a viral Reddit post if you want. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Lily, 25F. Growing up, we had the typical sibling rivalry, but we were best friends through most of our teenage years and into adulthood. I was the one she called at 3 a.m. when she had her first heartbreak, and I was the one she relied on for advice when she had career dilemmas. So when she started dating her now fiancé, Mark, 27M, I was cautiously optimistic. At first, Mark seemed fine. He was charming, funny, and appeared genuinely interested in Lily. But over time, something started to make me uneasy. The first red flag was how controlling he was over her social life. Lily used to hang out with our friends on weekends, but once Mark came into the picture, she stopped. She said it was because she preferred to stay in, which I accepted, but I noticed she seemed anxious anytime she even mentioned going to a group dinner without him. Another thing that started bothering me was how he treated waitstaff, cashiers, and basically anyone who he perceived as beneath him. I don't think I can exaggerate how much he seemed to take pleasure in belittling people quietly. It was subtle but consistent. At first, I brushed it off as me being overly sensitive, but then it became harder to ignore. The real turning point came about a year ago during a family gathering at my parents' house. Mark arrived late, in a rush, and immediately started criticizing the food my mom had spent hours preparing. He said things like, "Did you even try this before serving it? It's kind of bland, and I think a real chef would handle this differently." Everyone tried to laugh it off, but I saw the hurt in my mom's eyes. Lily didn't say much either. She tried to smooth things over, but I could tell it bothered her too. I started noticing patterns. He would constantly make offhand, mean-spirited comments, and then try to laugh them off as jokes. When they got engaged, I tried to put my reservations aside. I wanted to be happy for my sister. I even offered to help with wedding planning and suggested ideas. But every time I brought something up, Mark would subtly dismiss my suggestions or take credit for ideas I had mentioned. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but the more interactions I had with him, the more obvious it became that he was manipulative and condescending. Things came to a head a few months ago. Lily and I were talking about bridesmaids' dresses, and I casually mentioned a store I thought she might like. The next day, she told me Mark had insisted on a completely different store and ignored my suggestion entirely. I didn't think much of it until he started texting me directly, telling me that my ideas were dated and that I needed to stay in my lane. This was after years of me supporting Lily, being involved in her life, and offering help. I was shocked and told him to back off. Lily apologized to me, but seemed frustrated that I was upset. She said I was overreacting and that Mark just wanted to be helpful. Fast forward to the wedding invitations. I received a beautifully written card, but it came with a note from Mark about attending only if you follow certain protocols. He said things like, "Please don't bring up any of your old family drama during the ceremony, and we expect guests to be cheerful and supportive at all times, no exceptions." It felt controlling and passive-aggressive, and honestly, the idea of sitting there pretending everything was fine while he subtly demeaned me or my family was unbearable. I wrote back politely declining, citing prior commitments, but didn't mention my real reasons. Since then, the family drama has exploded. Lily is hurt and refuses to talk to me, claiming I'm ruining her special day and that I should just get along with him for 5 hours. My parents are caught in the middle. They understand my concerns about Mark, but they also feel I'm being unreasonable for missing a once-in-a-lifetime event. Some extended family members have called me selfish, saying I should put my sister's happiness above my discomfort. On the other hand, my closest friends and a few relatives I trust say I'm justified and that Mark's behavior is genuinely concerning. I honestly don't know if I overreacted. I've tried to separate my personal feelings from the fact that it is my sister's wedding, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't stand to be around him without feeling anxious or angry. I love my sister, but I can't support a relationship that I see as toxic. I also worry that if I go, I'll inadvertently validate his behavior or let her think that mistreatment is acceptable. I've attempted to reach out to Lily since declining the invitation, but she hasn't responded. I don't want to alienate her completely, but at the same time, I feel like standing up for myself is important. I keep replaying the decision over and over in my head, wondering if I should just suck it up for one day. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior, even though it hurts her and our family? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly shamed me for my career choice. So I, 28F, have always known I wanted a career in art. Not like the famous painter dream, but I love working in visual arts, creating illustrations, doing commissions, and teaching online art classes. I make a decent living, though not a traditional 9-to-5 salary, and honestly, I'm happier than I ever thought I could be. My sister, Lily, 32F, on the other hand, is a corporate lawyer and has always had this air of superiority about her achievements. Our parents adore her and constantly compare us. It's exhausting, but I've mostly accepted it as family dynamics. Recently, Lily got engaged to someone I'll call Daniel, and of course, the wedding planning started immediately. She's been very vocal about wanting a perfect wedding and making sure everything is top tier. I got to save the date a few months ago and was excited to attend, as I genuinely like her fiancé and wanted to celebrate her happiness. About 2 weeks ago, she hosted a small engagement brunch for family. I showed up, as requested, and tried to contribute by bringing a handmade painting of her engagement photo, which I thought was thoughtful. However, when I handed it over, she made this very loud, exaggerated gasp and said, "Oh, wow. Well, at least you didn't waste money buying something, because we wouldn't put that on display anyway. Maybe stick to Etsy or something." She laughed, clearly expecting the whole room to laugh with her. The room went awkwardly silent. I forced a smile, muttered thanks, and tried to move on. My parents didn't defend me, which hurt more than anything. Since that brunch, she has been subtly but consistently degrading my career whenever we're in public. During a family dinner, she told one of her coworkers, "Oh, my sister? She makes a hobby out of drawing cartoons. It's cute, but not real work." Again, no one called her out. Fast forward to last week. She sent out the formal wedding invites. I noticed the RSVP instructions included a note about family contributions to the gift registry, which I found unnecessary, but okay. I tried to pick something meaningful, and I asked her privately if she'd like me to make something personal for her wedding day, maybe a custom illustration or something creative. Her response shocked me. She said, "Honestly, I don't want your art. You're not making anything of real value. Just stick to the registry." At that point, I felt this mix of anger and sadness. I realized she doesn't just not appreciate my work, she actively belittles it in front of others. I thought about attending her wedding anyway, because, deep down, I still love my sister, but I felt my presence would just be another opportunity for her to undermine me. After a couple of days of thinking, I wrote her an email explaining that I would not be attending the wedding. I told her that I wanted to celebrate her happiness, but I could no longer be around someone who treats me as if my career and passions are worthless. I also mentioned that while I hoped she could understand my perspective, I needed to prioritize my mental health. Her response came within an hour. She called me dramatic and said I was throwing away family over a few harmless jokes. She accused me of holding grudges and being selfish because she deserves to have her big day without having to worry about my insecurities. She CC'd our parents and a few extended family members, essentially turning it into a guilt trip. Since then, our parents have been pressuring me to reconsider and attend, framing it as me breaking family bonds and being petty. Some relatives have reached out asking me to just let it go because it's only a day. I understand their point of view, but I feel like the core issue isn't just the wedding. It's the way she treats me in general. Here's where I'm torn. I know my absence will cause drama. I'll likely be criticized at the wedding and in family circles for years. But I also know that attending would make me feel invisible and belittled, and I don't think I should have to compromise my self-respect for one day. AITA for choosing not to go to my sister's wedding because she consistently disrespects my career and my choices. I'm aware this will likely be seen as extreme by some, but I honestly don't feel like I can walk into a space where I'm expected to smile while being subtly insulted. Has anyone else dealt with a situation where a family event felt emotionally unsafe, and how did you navigate it without completely burning bridges? I just want to know if I'm in the wrong here, or if protecting my mental health is valid in this scenario. Character count, 6,526. AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister move in with us after she repeatedly broke our trust. I, 33F, have been married to my husband, Mike, 35M, for 8 years. We live in a 3-bedroom house with our 2 kids, ages 6 and 4. Generally, our marriage and household run smoothly, but we recently had a major conflict involving Mike's younger sister, Lindsay, 29F. Lindsay has always had a history of financial irresponsibility and making impulsive decisions. She has moved in with friends and other family members multiple times, often leaving abruptly when things didn't go her way or when conflicts arose. Despite this, she recently approached Mike, saying that she wanted to move in with us temporarily because she was between jobs and needed a place to stay. Mike initially thought it would be fine for a short period, and I tried to keep an open mind. Before agreeing, I made it very clear what our expectations would be. She would contribute to household chores, respect the privacy of our family, pay a portion of the bills, and follow our house rules. Lindsay agreed verbally, and we thought everything was settled. A week after moving in, issues began immediately. She was leaving dishes in the sink for days, letting the kids watch excessive TV despite rules limiting screen time, and spending hours on our shared tablet without asking. When I politely reminded her to follow the agreed-upon rules, she brushed it off, saying, "I'm just relaxing. You don't need to be so controlling." Things escalated further when she borrowed money from me without asking to pay for emergencies, totaling around $400. When I confronted her, she said she would pay me back eventually, but didn't specify a timeline. She also started inviting friends over without consulting us, bringing noise and chaos into the house while our children were napping or doing homework. Mike tried to mediate, but he often minimized my concerns. He would say things like, "She's family, just let her enjoy herself," or "It's not a big deal, she's only here temporarily." I reminded him that temporary does not mean disruptive, and that the behavior she was showing was consistent with past patterns. He became defensive and accused me of overreacting and not giving her a chance. One evening, Lindsay had an unannounced overnight guest, which I only found out about when I noticed an extra person sleeping in the guest room. I was furious, as I had explicitly told her that no one else could stay without prior approval. When I confronted her, she laughed and said, "It's just one night. Lighten up." At that point, I realized she had no intention of respecting our rules or our home. The final straw came last week. I discovered that she had been eating food designated for our children without permission, including snacks and prepackaged meals I specifically bought for them. She also left our laundry in disarray, and when I asked her to help clean, she said she was too tired and that this is your house, not mine. At that point, I told Mike that she needed to leave. Mike reacted poorly. He said I was being harsh and unreasonable for kicking her out, even though we had tried to establish rules and she repeatedly ignored them. Lindsay became dramatic, claiming I was mean and that I didn't care about her situation. She started posting about it on social media, framing herself as the victim and tagging mutual friends. Some friends began messaging me, saying I should be more understanding, while others agreed that Lindsay's behavior was unacceptable. I have since maintained that my top priority is the safety, stability, and routine of my own family. I have offered Lindsay alternatives, such as staying at a local shelter, a friend's place, or even finding a short-term rental until she gets back on her feet. She refuses to consider any option other than living with us. Meanwhile, the tension has started affecting Mike and me. He is torn between supporting me and feeling guilty for his sister. I understand his loyalty, but I also feel like I've been pushed to my limit and need my household to function without constant chaos and disrespect. Some family members think I am being rigid and should make room for family in need, while others agree that she was taking advantage of our hospitality and that setting boundaries is completely reasonable. I feel guilty for causing family drama, but also frustrated because I've been clear about expectations from the beginning, and Lindsay ignored them entirely. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister continue living with us after she repeatedly broke our trust, ignored house rules, and created chaos in our home. Character count, 6,352. I can also write a more dramatic version where the conflict escalates to extended family interventions, social media drama, and a heated confrontation at a family event, which tend to make these stories more popular on Reddit. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée take over my wedding planning because she thinks she knows what I really want. I, 28F, have been engaged to my partner, Daniel, 30M, for about 8 months. We've been planning our wedding for next year, and I thought everything was going smoothly until my brother, Ryan, 31M, and his fiancée, Samantha, 29F, started inserting themselves into the process. At first, I was happy to have their input. Ryan and Samantha are generally helpful and know a lot about event planning. I even asked them for some advice on venues and catering, expecting them to offer suggestions, but Samantha quickly turned it into a full-on takeover attempt. She started making demands about the guest list, decorations, and even the timeline for the ceremony. Samantha insists that she knows what I really want, and that my ideas are too plain or boring. For example, I wanted a small, intimate wedding with close family and friends, but she created a list of people she thinks should attend, which included dozens of distant relatives and acquaintances I barely know. She also tried to replace my chosen caterer with one she recommends, claiming it's better for the vibe, even though I'd already booked someone I love and who fits our budget. When I told her I appreciated her input, but I wanted the final say, she got upset. She said I was being selfish and not considering what will make the wedding special for everyone. She even implied that I was stressing Daniel out, and that my choices were not good enough. I felt blindsided because the wedding is supposed to be about me and Daniel, not Samantha's vision. Things escalated further when she started messaging our parents and extended family, trying to get them to support her suggestions. She framed it as if I'm being unreasonable and controlling, which made my parents uncomfortable. They tried to stay neutral, but I could tell they were getting annoyed because Samantha kept saying things like, "Your daughter has no sense of style," and "this is how weddings are supposed to be done." Samantha also tried to micromanage my registry. She suggested that I shouldn't pick certain gifts because they won't look good in pictures, and encouraged guests to buy items I didn't even want. She even started asking my friends for their opinions, effectively sidelining me entirely. Daniel has been supportive, but he's also stressed. He keeps telling me that Samantha's behavior is overbearing and that we need to set boundaries, but he also worries about causing family drama. I tried to compromise by letting her handle minor tasks like sending out save-the-dates for distant relatives she insisted on inviting. But even as she turned into a power struggle, demanding approval on every single detail. I've tried to communicate calmly, explaining that while I appreciate her help, the wedding is ultimately mine and Daniel's, and we need to make the decisions that feel right for us. Samantha responds by saying that I don't understand how weddings work, and that I'll regret not listening to her guidance. The situation reached a breaking point last week when she sent Daniel a text outlining her perfect wedding plan, complete with colors, floral arrangements, seating chart, and even menu choices. She implied that if we didn't follow it, the wedding would be dull and disappointing. I was furious. I told Daniel that we need to draw a hard line and communicate that Samantha cannot make decisions for us. After that, Samantha accused me of being dramatic and ungrateful and said I was making the wedding about myself in a bad way. Ryan has been trying to mediate, but he keeps saying I should try to see her side, even though she's clearly disregarding my wishes entirely. I feel guilty because I don't want to hurt my brother or create tension in the family, but I also feel that allowing Samantha to control the wedding would make it completely not ours. I want to enjoy the planning process and feel like my ideas matter, not constantly have them overridden. Some friends say I'm right to stand my ground, as it's my wedding and my choices should come first. Others say I should let her help to avoid family conflict. I feel caught between wanting to enjoy this milestone and managing an overbearing fiancé in the family. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé take over my wedding planning, even though she says she knows what I really want, and that her way is better. Character count, 6,658 if you want. I can write another story with multiple family members, escalating drama, and overlapping moral dilemmas that mirrors the kind of viral AITA posts that often trend on Reddit. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé take over my wedding planning. I, 28F, am currently engaged to my fiancé, Alex, 30M, and we've been together for almost 6 years. When we got engaged last year, we decided to have a relatively small wedding with close family and friends. We wanted it to feel intimate, personal, and honestly, stress-free. Both of us have demanding jobs, and we didn't want to spend a year arguing over florals, table linens, and color schemes. Here's where things start getting tricky. My younger brother, Ryan, 25M, got engaged a few months after we did, and his fiancée, Jenna, 26F, is extremely controlling when it comes to events and planning. Ryan is the type who avoids conflict at all costs, so he's basically surrendered all wedding-related decisions to her. Everyone in my family has noticed it, and I honestly feel bad for him. Before I even got engaged, I had always dreamed of a DIY wedding with handmade decorations, personal touches, and a small but cozy vibe. When Alex and I started discussing venues and themes, I told him I wanted to handle most of the planning myself, with input from our families as needed. He was 100% on board. I was so excited to start planning because it was genuinely my dream. The problem started when I casually mentioned some of my wedding ideas to my mom and sister during a family brunch, which was overheard by Jenna. The next day, I received a very long text from Jenna suggesting that I should let her help with the wedding since she has so much experience planning events and weddings. I was taken aback because I didn't even know she considered herself an expert. She then proceeded to list out her credentials. She's coordinated a couple of small parties and her own bridal shower, and apparently, she has a Pinterest board with over 10,000 pins related to weddings. I politely responded that we appreciate the offer, but we wanted to plan the wedding ourselves and keep it intimate. I thought that would be the end of it, but over the next few weeks, Jenna started sending me long emails, sometimes multiple a day, with suggestions on everything: venue choices, color palettes, table layouts, dress codes, and even the type of silverware we should use. Every suggestion was either a complete contradiction of what Alex and I had discussed or something I explicitly told my family I wanted. At first, I tried to be patient. I responded with polite but firm messages, saying that we had already made decisions or preferred to stick with our original plans. She started escalating after I didn't reply fast enough one day, sending a group text to my mom, my sister, Alex's parents, and me, stating, "I really think your wedding would be so much better if I helped organize it. You're making it way too stressful for yourselves." I felt blindsided. She had basically turned a private conversation into a family intervention. The breaking point came when I found out that she had contacted the venue we booked and tried to change the layout, claiming she was consulting for the bride. The venue told me that they would only proceed with our original contract, which I found extremely frustrating and stressful. I ended up calling Jenna directly and told her in no uncertain terms that she was not involved in any aspect of our wedding and that any further interference would be unwelcome. I also copied Alex in that message to ensure he backed me up, which he did wholeheartedly. Now the fallout. Ryan confronted me, saying that Jenna was just trying to help and that I was being overly defensive. My parents are divided. My mom says I should just let Jenna have some involvement to keep the peace, while my dad fully supports me. Alex's family is entirely on my side, saying that this is my wedding and my decisions. I've tried to explain that letting Jenna take over even a small part would mean I'd constantly be second-guessing everything and that the whole point of a small, personal wedding would be lost. Jenna has now gone to social media, posting vague statuses about brides who won't take advice and family drama before the wedding even begins, which my family keeps sending me links to. I feel like I'm being painted as unreasonable, and it's starting to affect my relationship with my brother. Ryan says I'm hurting his fiancée's feelings and creating unnecessary family tension. I try to tell him that I value their relationship and support them, but that this is my wedding and I need it to reflect me and Alex, not someone else. I get that she's excited and wants to help, but I feel like she's crossing a line and not respecting boundaries. Alex and I are now considering hiring a professional coordinator just to ensure Jenna doesn't interfere, which ironically is more expensive and stressful than if we had handled everything ourselves quietly. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my brother's fiancée take over my wedding planning? I feel like I'm just trying to have a day that actually represents us, but my family keeps framing me as the villain. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her bridal party demands? 29F. have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Megan, 32F. Growing up, we had a typical sibling rivalry, occasional fights, some jealousy, but overall, we were reasonably close. Over the years, we drifted a bit due to college, jobs, and moving to different cities, but we still kept in touch, and I've always tried to be supportive, especially during important life events. Megan got engaged about a year ago, and initially, I was genuinely happy for her. However, as the wedding planning progressed, things started to get a little intense. Megan is a control freak, and I've seen it in small doses before, but the wedding planning brought it to a whole new level. She wanted her bridal party to follow very specific rules, not just about dresses and colors, but everything from hairstyles to gift contributions to the bachelorette party. It all came to a head about 3 months ago. Megan informed me that she wanted me to be the maid of honor. On the surface, I was honored, but then she started outlining the expectations. Here's a summary of what she wanted. I had to host a bachelorette party in another state and cover all travel and accommodation costs for her and the other bridesmaids. I had to design and purchase the bridesmaids' gifts and ensure they matched her vision, which was extremely specific and expensive. She expected me to plan and host a rehearsal dinner entirely on my own, including catering, decoration, and renting the venue. She demanded that I help with DIY wedding decorations, which required several weekends of work. She insisted on weekly check-ins to go over every little detail of the wedding and my progress on all tasks. I tried to negotiate or at least set some boundaries, but Megan said I was being ungrateful and selfish for questioning her wishes. She kept insisting that being maid of honor was a huge honor and that I should be happy to do everything she asked without complaint. At first, I tried to compromise. I agreed to help with DIY decorations and some planning tasks, but I drew the line at spending thousands of dollars on events I couldn't afford. I earn a modest salary and have student loans and living expenses that prevent me from shelling out $2,000 plus for a single weekend. When I told Megan that I couldn't afford the bachelorette party and would help in other ways, she reacted extremely negatively. She accused me of ruining her wedding and not caring about her happiness at all. After a few more heated conversations, I realized that if I continued down this path, it would either cost me a fortune or create years of resentment between us. So, I made the difficult decision to step down as maid of honor and told her that while I wanted to celebrate with her, I would attend as a guest only. I also told her that I was happy to help in small, non-financial ways, like giving input on decorations or helping set up on the day of the wedding. Megan completely lost it. She accused me of throwing her under the bus, being selfish, and even told our parents that I didn't care about her happiness. My parents are supportive of me, but tried to stay neutral, saying they understood Megan's perspective and my limitations. Megan has since stopped talking to me except to send passive-aggressive texts like, "It's fine if you're not in the wedding, I guess. We'll manage without you." Some of my friends have said I'm being reasonable and that her expectations were completely over the top, but others have suggested I'm being a bad sister for backing out and should just find a way to make her happy. Honestly, I feel like I'm being torn between two extremes, sacrificing my financial stability and mental health to satisfy Megan, or standing up for myself and risking permanent damage to our relationship. I'm scheduled to attend the wedding in a couple of weeks as a guest, but I'm worried about the tension this is going to create. I've offered to help in small ways, but I'm afraid that won't be enough for her. I also worry that some of the other bridesmaids will be upset with me or view me as the problem because I'm not fulfilling the traditional maid of honor role. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to be my sister's maid of honor because her expectations were financially and emotionally unreasonable. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.